The most dangerous weapon in modern cyber warfare isn't it isn't some billion-dollar virus coded by a shadowy military intelligence agency.
Yeah.
It's not a brute force algorithm hacking your firewall. It's actually, well, it's a text message about the extra pillow you requested for your hotel room next Tuesday.
Right, which sounds completely absurd when you frame it like that. But, I mean, it is the absolute truth of where digital security stands today. The human mind is basically the ultimate backdoor into any system.
Yeah, exactly. And welcome to today's deep dive. Today we are looking directly at you, the listener. We're exploring human psychology and how our natural, our instinctual reactions have become the undisputed center of the modern cybersecurity lifecycle.
It's such an interesting shift to watch.
It really is. And we have a genuinely fascinating stack of sources to guide this exploration today. I've been reviewing a recent article from Security Week. This is by Edward Kovacs from April 2026, and it details a very specific type of data breach at Booking.com. And we are pairing that with a local ABC 11 news report out of Raleigh, Durham. This one's from March 2026, concerning some Department of Homeland Security warnings about Middle Eastern cyber threats.
Right, the geopolitical angle.
Exactly. And then to cap it all off, we're digging into the actual corporate documentation for this, like futuristic endpoint recovery automation tool called Swimmage.
Yeah, and going through these materials, you really see a completely cohesive story. Like, we're tracing how a single vulnerability starts with just a localized human reaction, like the panic of losing a vacation, right?
Right.
And how that exact same psychology is then weaponized on a global scale during international conflicts, and ultimately how global corporations are just being forced to completely abandon the old ways of defending their networks.
Which is wild. So that is the mission for us today. Okay, let's unpack this. Starting with the Booking.com incident covered in that Security Week article.
Yeah.
So according to Edward Kovacs, Booking.com recently had to notify its customers about suspicious activity on their platform.
Yeah, a breach.
Right? An unauthorized third party managed to access booking information. And we were talking about names, email addresses, phone numbers, and the specific, really granular details that users shared with their upcoming accommodations.
What's fascinating here is what was noticeably absent from that list of stolen data. Because, when anyone hears the phrase data breach, our collective minds just immediately jump to the absolute worst-case financial scenario.
But totally, like checking accounts drained.
Exactly. We picture our checking accounts being drained in real time, or like our credit cards being maxed out halfway across the world. But Booking.com made a really crucial clarification here. The customer accounts themselves were not breached.
Yeah.
The core financial and payment information remained entirely secure. The whole issue was fully contained, and as a precaution, Booking.com went ahead and just updated the reservation PIN numbers for all the affected customers.
Which, I mean, when I first read that, my immediate reaction was almost this sense of relief. Like, if they didn't get my credit card number, why should I even care if some random hacker knows I'm staying at, like, a Marriott in Chicago next week? It feels fairly benign.
Right, and that false sense of security is the exact trap. You really have to reverse your thinking and look at this entirely from the attacker's perspective.
Okay, how so?
Well, in today's digital landscape, they do not actually need your credit card number if they have your travel itinerary. An itinerary is essentially the ultimate raw material for manufacturing trust.
Ah, so they use those mundane details to, like, bypass my mental defenses.
Mm-hmm.
I know I've heard this called social engineering, but what does the actual mechanism look like in practice? Like, how do they turn an itinerary into cash?
So hackers use this specific non-financial data to launch highly targeted, hyper-personalized phishing attacks. I mean, just think about the psychology of travel for a second.
It's the worst. So stressful.
Exactly. If you're flying out tomorrow, your baseline stress level is already elevated. You're packing, you're coordinating rides to the airport, checking flight statuses.
Sweating over whether your bag is overweight.
Right. And right in the middle of all that friction, you receive a WhatsApp message or an SMS text, and it addresses you by your full name. It correctly identifies the exact hotel property you're checking into, the exact dates of your stay, and maybe even like a special request you submitted for an allergy-friendly room.
Wow. Okay, yeah, at that point, my guard is completely dismantled. If a message contains that level of granular insider detail, my brain just instantly categorizes it as a legitimate communication from the hotel staff.
Exactly. And that is the moment they strike. The text will follow up with a manufactured crisis.
Like what?
It might say something like, we are terribly sorry, but there was a catastrophic error processing your initial deposit. If you do not wire this specific fee to this new bank account within the next 20 minutes, your reservation will be automatically canceled.
Oh, man. It's like someone stealing the guest list to an exclusive party. They aren't trying to break into the vault inside the venue, right? They just want to stand outside on the sidewalk and trick the arriving guest into handing over their wallets simply because they know the guests' names and what time they were expected to arrive.
That's a great way to put it. The data they stole from Booking.com is just the reconnaissance. The actual weapon is your own adrenaline. I mean, Booking.com explicitly reminded their customers in the notification that they will never, under any circumstances, ask for credit card details via email, phone, WhatsApp, or text.
Right, of course.
They'll never ask for a bank transfer different from the original booking confirmation. But the attackers are making a calculated bet here. They are betting that in the sheer panic of a potentially ruined vacation, your logical brain shuts down and your emotional brain takes over.
Because you just want to fix it.
You completely forget the security rules because you are desperate to solve the immediate problem.
And this is exactly why you, the listener, need to understand the mechanics of this. Your inbox, your text messages, they are active battlegrounds. Understanding how your data is used against you, even seemingly harmless data like what day you were visiting Chicago, that is your strongest defense.
Absolutely.
Knowing their playbook is the only way you stop yourself from trusting a fraudulent text message, no matter how flawlessly convincing the details are.
Because the attackers are experts at creating a false sense of urgency, the whole goal is to force you into a rushed decision before you have time to verify the source.
Right. And because once we understand that hackers are exploiting the friction of a stressful situation, we can really see how this scales up. Like if a hacker can manufacture panic over a canceled hotel room, imagine the effectiveness of leveraging an actual international crisis.
Oh, it's terrifying.
It is. And that brings us to that ABC 11 Raleigh-Durham report. So we are shifting gears here from fake hotel fees to global geopolitical tensions. But the underlying vulnerability remains totally identical. The Department of Homeland Security recently issued a serious alert for U.S. citizens regarding potential cyber attacks. And this was issued in the direct aftermath of joint U.S.-Israel military strikes in Iran.
Yeah, and the ABC 11 report features this highly insightful analysis from Jeremy Williams. He's the chief operating officer of a cybersecurity firm called Logically.
Right.
And his team started monitoring a really significant spike in network traffic coming from overseas, specifically tied to groups with affiliations to Iran and other Middle Eastern countries. And what stands out in his analysis is not just the volume of the attacks, but the methodology driving them.
Yeah, I was reading his breakdown, and it clicked immediately. He stated, quote, "They really prey on urgency." So creating urgency, understanding us as humans, we really make mistakes when we're moving fast, end quote.
It is the exact same psychological exploit used in the Booking.com phishing scam, just projected onto a much, much larger canvas. I mean, whether the context is a global conflict dominating the 24-hour news cycle or a supposed glitch with your weekend getaway, the entry point into the system is always human panic.
Wow. Yeah. When people are scared, anxious, or just feeling rushed by the news, they click links they know they shouldn't. They download email attachments claiming to be breaking news updates without verifying the sender.
Wait, I actually need to push back on this terminology a little bit.
Right.
When we talk about global conflicts in the Middle East, the news usually uses the phrase like nation-state threats.
Right.
And that paints a picture of highly organized, military-level cyber armies sitting in bunkers, coding sophisticated superviruses to take down the electrical grid. But the ABC 11 article specifically mentions hacktivists. So are we actually dealing with organized military operations here, or just rogue, loud troublemakers taking advantage of the global chaos?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the answer is kind of a complex blend of both, actually. But understanding the hacktivist element is crucial for the average person. Hacktivists are generally not officially state-backed.
They're not part of a formal military apparatus with some strict chain of command. They are decentralized, kind of rogue groups that emerge during massive geopolitical conflicts to act in what they perceive as a specific country's interest. But, and this is key, they maintain total plausible deniability for the host nation.
Ah, okay. So they act as like digital vigilantes, muddying the waters during a real-world conflict. What does their threat model actually look like then? If they aren't military, what are they even targeting?
Well, as Jeremy Williams noted in the report, hacktivists operate with a very specific goal. They want to make a lot of noise, more so than actual impact.
What's the difference?
So A nation-state might quietly infiltrate a network and sit undetected for years gathering intelligence. A hacktivist wants to grab headlines today. They want to project power and create widespread fear.
I see.
And they do this by targeting popular, highly visible U.S. websites, trying to deface the home pages or launch, denial of service attacks to take them offline temporarily.
Okay, so they are essentially throwing digital bricks through the front windows of businesses just to prove they can.
Exactly. And they use that chaos to their advantage. They will blast out mass phishing emails, hoping to exploit the current news cycle, again, manufacturing that urgency we talked about. Now, they do sometimes aim at critical infrastructure, like water treatment plants or electrical utilities.
Which is terrifying.
It is, however, the DHS report explicitly notes that the defense systems for those specific infrastructure targets are generally much more robust and heavily monitored.
Okay, so putting the pieces together, the real danger for the average citizen listening to this isn't necessarily that some hacktivist group in the Middle East is going to successfully shut down their local power grid today.
Right.
The far more likely danger is that the hacktivist is going to use the fear of the power grid shutting down, like the headlines, the noise, to trick them into clicking a malicious link in an email that promises, I don't know, a emergency blackout preparedness guide.
Yes, exactly. The geopolitical conflict merely provides the high-stakes backdrop for the social engineering. The human error, that willingness to click when afraid, that is the constant variable they rely on.
Because hacktivists and targeted phishers will inevitably trick someone. I mean, no matter how many corporate training videos an employee watches, someone, somewhere, is going to fall for the fake booking.com text or the geopolitically motivated phishing email.
Yep, it's just human nature.
Right. So companies are realizing that 100% prevention is a mathematical impossibility. The human side door is always going to get propped open. And this realization is forcing a massive shift in corporate defense, which brings us to the documentation I was reading for a tool called Swimmage.
This is such a cool piece of the puzzle. The shift from attempting total prevention to engineering automated resilience is arguably the most significant change in IT strategy in the last decade. And Swimmage is just a fascinating case study in what happens the second after the human error occurs.
Okay.
It's an endpoint recovery and operating system rebuild automation tool.
Right, so if human error causes a catastrophic corporate meltdown, like an employee clicking a hacktivist link that downloads a company-wide ransomware infection, this tool acts as the ultimate safety net. But I have to say, reading through these corporate specs, it sounds a bit like science fiction.
It really does. It solves the toughest endpoint challenges completely automatically, but it relies on some very specific, really heavy-duty architecture to do so. So Swimmage operates on a strict zero-trust architecture, and it aligns with massive security frameworks like SOC2, HiPay, and FIPS.
Okay, wait, before we go further into the weeds here, what does zero trust architecture actually mean in plain English for those of us who aren't, enterprise compliance officers? And why do those acronyms even matter?
Good question. So zero trust is exactly what it sounds like. A philosophy of never trust, always verify. In the old days, once you logged into a corporate network, you were generally trusted to move around inside it. Zero trust assumes the network is always hostile. Every single device, every single user, every single application must continually prove its identity and health status before it's allowed to communicate with anything else.
Got it. And the acronyms.
As for SOC2, EPFE, and FIPS, these are basically the gold standards of regulatory compliance for handling highly sensitive data, like medical records or federal government information. So Swimmage, adhering to these frameworks, means this isn't just some quick Band-Aid fix. It is a legally sound, enterprise-grade environment.
Right, that makes total sense for keeping things clean. But what if a machine is already compromised? What if the ransomware is actively encrypting the hard drive and locking the user out? How does a company survive a total system lockup without shipping the physical laptop back to an IT department?
And that is exactly where the speed and automation become critical. Swimmage can completely rebuild a crashed or severely infected PC entirely from the ground up in under 15 to 30 minutes.
That's insane.
It fundamentally removes the threat at the root by totally wiping the environment, reinstalling a clean operating system, putting all the required corporate applications back, securely restoring the user's data and settings, and then reconnecting the device to that zero trust domain.
which is huge because in the past, if you had a corrupted machine, the whole wipe and load process meant an IT technician spending all day with USB drives, downloading drivers, and manually moving files around.
Right. And the most crucial advancement here, especially for today's globally distributed remote workforce, is that Swimmage executes this entire rebuild without needing a technician to physically touch the computer. It works on-site, it works remote, or remarkably, even completely offline.
Wait, I have to stop you there. How on earth does a tool rebuild an operating system from scratch if the computer is offline? I mean, if the network is logged down by ransomware, how does it download the new clean Windows files?
It doesn't need to download them. Yeah, this is the core mechanism of the resilience. All the necessary files, the clean operating system image, the configurations, and the secure zero-trust environment. They are heavily encrypted and embedded directly into a hidden deployment kit on the machine's local hard drive long before any attack ever happens.
Oh, so it's just sitting there, dormant and protected, completely invisible to the ransomware.
Exactly. When a catastrophic failure occurs, the system boots into this secure, isolated partition. It doesn't rely on a fast internet connection. It can heal the machine locally, even over a painfully slow VPN, or literally with no network connection at all.
Wow.
And throughout this entire automated process, the documentation explicitly stresses a key security feature, which is data never leaves the device.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Reading about this hidden, secure partition, the analogy that comes to my mind is like a digital immune system, or honestly, the sci-fi escape pod.
I like that.
Right. In the old days, if a computer got a virus, you had to throw the hardware away or send it to a lab. Swimmage is like this immune system that instantly burns the infected digital body to ash and then rapidly clones a perfectly healthy, identical version of you right there in the same chair.
Yeah.
You're holding the exact same cup of coffee.
Yeah.
Retaining all your memories, your data, and it does this in 15 minutes.
That localized, in-place recovery is the exact mechanism. It ensures total resilience with absolutely zero disruption to the data custody chain, which is why those compliance frameworks we mentioned are completely satisfied.
And the business impact of transitioning to this kind of automated resilience is just staggering. The documentation provides some very concrete case studies, like a chief technology officer for a federal government agency utilized Swimmage to replace almost 5,000 PCs in just 3 months. Under the old paradigm, that would take an army of IT staff years to complete. We also have quotes from regular remote workers globally calling it a seamless process, noting they never even had to wait on hold for the help desk. A nonprofit IT director deployed 60 computers in 2 hours with just a single person managing the console.
It acts as an immense force multiplier for an IT department, really freeing human workers from those tedious recovery tasks.
And the kicker to all this high-end tech, the documentation states this enterprise-grade disaster recovery starts at just $4 a seat. I mean, when you consider the alternative, grinding your entire global business operations to a halt for 3 weeks, losing millions of dollars because one tired employee clicked a bad link at a fake hotel text war, it seems wildly cost-effective.
This raises an important question about how the fundamental philosophy of cybersecurity has evolved at the highest levels.
Oh, so.
Well, for decades, the entire industry was focused purely on building higher and thicker walls. We deployed firewalls, antivirus software, complex password rotations. The ultimate goal was 100% prevention, keeping the bad guys out at all costs.
But the attackers adapted. They realized they didn't need to spend millions breaking through the titanium wall if they could just socially engineer the person inside into opening the front gate.
Precisely.
That is the Booking.com phishing text. That is the hacktivist exploiting the panic of a geopolitical news cycle.
So the defense strategy had to evolve in response, and Swimmage represents this new era of extreme automated resilience. Enterprise IT now assumes the breach is just an inevitability.
Right.
The new goal isn't just to build a higher wall, it's to ensure that when the wall is inevitably breached by human error, the damage can be instantly and automatically erased. The threat is removed at the root level, and the system is restored with zero human technician involvement. It treats a devastating cyber attack less like a fatal blow and more like a temporary glitch that the machine simply self-corrects.
Man, let's bring this all together. We've traced a truly fascinating through line today. We started at the micro level, looking at how a single, seemingly mundane piece of stolen data, like your hotel itinerary, can be weaponized to manipulate your psychology through a targeted text message. We then zoomed out to the macro level, observing how decentralized international hacktivists use that exact same psychological manipulation, preying on our urgency and panic during major global news events to create noise and chaos.
Right.
And finally, we look behind the corporate curtain to understand the mechanics of automated, zero-touch safety nets like swimmage, which are just quietly embedded in systems, waiting to instantly clone and rebuild infected networks the moment human error inevitably happens.
It truly is a vast, interconnected ecosystem, just constantly balancing human vulnerability against automated defense.
So what does this all mean, like for the listener tuning in right now?
Well, it means that despite all the sci-fi enterprise tools, you remain the ultimate frontline in cybersecurity. All the automated recovery software in the world, all the zero-trust architecture, it's really all just an expensive backup plan for when human psychology fails.
Yeah.
Being deeply informed about how your mundane data is used to manufacture trust and understanding why hackers desperately prey on your sense of urgency, that is your daily armor. When you receive that frantic text about a canceled flight or an alarming email about a national crisis demanding you immediately click a link, force yourself to pause.
Take a breath.
Take a breath. Recognize the manufactured urgency for exactly what it is, a social engineering tactic. Think critically before you click, and absolutely verify the source before you ever send a bank transfer.
You definitely have the power to keep that human side door locked.
Mm-hmm.
But as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you, the listener, with a final kind of lingering thought to chew on based on where all this source material is pointing.
Lay it on me.
Well, we've talked today about how human panic is the catalyst for these attacks, and how human IT workers are actively being replaced by automated tools like swimmage to clean up the resulting mess. Just look at the trajectory.
Okay.
If corporate defenses are rapidly becoming these fully automated, zero-touch, self-healing systems, and on the flip side, attackers are increasingly utilizing autonomous AI agents and faceless, decentralized networks to launch their strikes. Are we approaching a near future where the entirety of cyber warfare is just machines silently fighting machines at lightning speed, while the humans sitting at the keyboards remain completely unaware that a war is even happening?
That is a wild thought.
Keep an eye on your inbox, verify those hotel texts, and stay curious.